Today at the 2020 Chicago Auto Show, Kia pulled the wraps off of their refreshed Cadenza sedan. This is known in other world markets as the Kia K7. If we take a look up front, you'll notice that we get a more aggressive grille design than we saw before, and it still has that sort of scalloped appearance that we saw before. They call that the waterfall grille design. This gives me a little bit of a BMW vibe here with this kink. We also have full LED headlamps and this distinctive Z treatment going on up front. I think they've definitely made the Cadenza look a little bit more aggressive than it was before, but it still is focused on someone that's looking for a Lexus ES, something along those lines, or a Toyota Avalon, but they don't want to spend quite that much money. The Cadenza is not Kia's top-end sedan. That's actually the K900 that's behind it, but this is their front-wheel drive competitor in this segment. This used to do business with the likes of the Hyundai Azera, but the Azera is now gone. So on the inside, this is going to give you more room than a Kia Optima, and it's also going to give you a more premium feel than the Kia Optima, especially as we move towards the back, and you can see that we have more flowing lines back here, etc. You can also see there are a few tweaks back here. We have LED tail lamp modules with the same sort of Z shape going on. There's some hashed lines giving it a little bit more of an aggressive appearance than we had before. And down at the bottom, Kia has pulled sort of an Audi with these faux exhaust tips down there at the bottom bumper. Those aren't real. The real exhaust tips are tucked up under there, but that seems to be the in vogue thing. Volkswagen and Audi have been doing that for a while. We also have new 18 and 19-inch wheels. No changes happen under the hood. We have the same 3.3-liter V6 engine that we had before, producing 290 horsepower, and it's mated only to an 8-speed automatic transmission. As before, no all-wheel drive system is available in the Cadenza. If you want to get all-wheel drive and you want a bigger Kia, you'll have to look at something like the Kia K900 because it does have all-wheel drive standard. It also has a twin-turbo variant of essentially the same 3.3-liter engine, producing a lot more power. Now, interestingly enough, we may see all-wheel drive in the next generation Kia Optima. We should be seeing that very, very soon. Hopping on the inside, the doors get a mild restyling, but most of the change happens over here on the dashboard, where we definitely have a much more modern and luxurious look. We still have imitation wood trim. Real wood trim is reserved for the top-end K900, also known as the K9, but we get this absolutely enormous infotainment screen here on the dashboard, and this surprised me a little bit because in the Kia lineup we have seen their new and still pretty big 10.5-inch screen spreading across the lineup, but this is actually a little over 12 inches right here. This is very similar to what we see in the Telluride as far as the software goes, but we get a bigger screen, much more like the K900. Two air vents right there mimicking the shapes that we had going on the front of the vehicle, dual zone automatic climate control. In Korea, this is one of the best-selling vehicles, which is kind of interesting because in America, it doesn't really sell terribly well. We have two USB ports there, one interfaces with the system. We then have a pretty traditional console shifter, two cup holders right there, drive mode selector, heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, 360-degree camera view, auto brake hold, and an electric parking brake. Moving over to the steering wheel, we see a refresh of the Kia design that we've seen in some other vehicles there. Overall, this has a pretty good look to it, a nice solid feel. We have the buttons for the standard radar adaptive cruise control over here on the right, the infotainment system over there on the left. One thing that I thought was interesting is we don't have a full LCD instrument cluster back here, however. Instead, we get a small color display right there in the middle. It does give us things like turn-by-turn navigation directions, but it's not quite as snazzy as a full LCD would be. But remember, the Cadenza is all about value. This is priced a little bit more like an Avalon than a Lexus ES, but honestly, on the inside, this feels a little bit more Lexus than Avalon. One of the big reasons to get the Cadenza over something like a Camry or an Accord is going to be overall interior comfort. The front seats are definitely more comfortable and more adjustable than the average mid-size sedan in America. We have a pretty decent amount of legroom in the back, although you will find a little bit more legroom in some of the competition. Headroom, however, is just a little bit limited. Back here, if I try and sit upright in this back seat, my head does touch the ceiling, and that's something that we see in basically every sedan, regardless of size in America. They're just not designed for a lot of tall people in the rear anymore. As the sedan market has been shrinking, as customers have been moving over to crossovers, rear seat accommodations seem to have taken the hit there in order to give us this sexy profile. We do, however, have a large panoramic moonroof here. We'll know more about final pricing when the Cadenza goes on sale very shortly here, but expect the Cadenza to be priced more like the Toyota Avalon again than like the Lexus ES. But arguably in the top-end trims, the Cadenza really does compete a little bit more with the Lexus, or perhaps something like the Acura TLX, than the Avalon or some of the other mainstream models. It's all about the interior, the features and functions that we get on the inside, but of course, It's going to have a Kia logo on the front, which is a mainstream brand. Again, the Cadenza is all about value. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section below. And if you were shopping for an Avalon or even top-end trims of a Camry or an Accord, would you consider something like the Avalon as an appropriate cross-shop? We do have just about the same amount of power under there, 290 horsepower, and 8-speed automatic transmission. No all-wheel drive, unfortunately. We do expect to see that in the new Optima, but I still think this is a very solid competitor to something like the Avalon, even that Lexus or the Acura. Let me know down there, and I will see you all later.